What's up, everybody? Undad here, aka Mr. Robert Fortnite, and we are back for another Survival Hunter video for Season 2 of Dragonflight. So this is Aberrus the something Crucible, and our first season of Mythic Plus without a seasonal affix to kind of name the season in a long time. Thank God. I'm so happy with the no seasonal affix. But anyways, today we're going to be talking about how to play Survival Hunter. We talked about talents at first, but we're going to talk about the rotation today. I was a little hesitant to making one of these videos. Why it took me a little bit because I personally feel like the content exists already elsewhere and better than I can do. The written guides for Hunter and Survival Hunter, but Hunter in general, all three specs. Specifically on Icy Veins that have been written by Azertharian for the past, 10 years, are extremely high quality, in-depth, cover pretty much everything you'll need to know, and I think are organized a little bit better than I'm going to be able to organize this and help you out. But I've gotten a lot of comments asking for this, people dropping in Twitch chat while I'm streaming, and asking rotational questions or asking me to make a video talking about this kind of thing. So I'm going to do my best here. I'm going to go into some things that I guess I feel are maybe slightly missing from the guide or could be hard to interpret from the written guide on Icy Veins. But first, I want to give credit where it's due and kind of just walk through the rotation page of the Icy Veins guide and show you how you should be reading it. Because if you haven't written a guide or read or consumed this kind of content before, it may be a little bit confusing. I could see where you're looking like, this is my rotation, but this is written in a weird way. Like, how do I do this? So I'm just going to briefly walk through that, and then I'm going to share my notes with you as far as like the extra little things I think about or how I kind of simplify what I'm doing when I'm actively playing the game. So first we'll pull up the guide here. There we go. We'll pull this up and walk through this. Give me one sec. Let's do boop-a-da-bop. Looks nicer now. All right. So this is what the page looks like if you go to the rotation page of the Icy Veins guide for Survival Hunter. You just click rotation, and then you'll see this. There's a little bit of intro text here, and then we pick our talents. For the purposes of this, I have everything that you could ever imagine talenting, basically, except for Bombardier, because Bombardier does affect the opener. And, well, I'll talk about that later when we get into using CA. I will mention Bombardier, and we'll talk about how it's a little bit different. Very slightly, but a little bit different. So you go through here. I have Hydra's Bite and Poison Injection both selected because it just has no impact, really. You don't really do much different because of these two. They're kind of passive. And then based on what you have checked, you will have different, it's set up in here to show you different things based on which talents you have. So generally what it's going to look like when you read one of these is the best hunter single target rotation. This is not a rotation though. This is not like do this, then this, then this, then this, then this, and this, and then go back to the top. What it is, in fact, is a priority checklist. It is start at the top. If I can do this thing, do it. If not, go to the next thing. If I can't do the next thing, go to the next thing. If I can't do the next, go to the next. And you work all the way down until you get to the last priority action, and then go from there. That's how you read this, which it doesn't explicitly say that's how you read this, but so that's a place I could see being confused. However, this is very accurate in what you're doing and how you play the class. So this is free for you to reference whenever you want. I will link to the page in the description. And then we have the opener here, which is in fact like do this in this order. This is when you pull up to a boss. It's single target. You hit Death Chakram, you harpoon in. These can be done on the same global. Then you kill command, wildfire bomb, spend some focus, and then go back up to your priority rotation and see, okay, what can I do now? In this case, it is probably activate coordinated assault because you're not below 60 focus. You only spent one of these. Sorry, Death Chakram's on cooldown. We're not in coordinated assault yet, so we can't do this. We are not close to reaching 2 charges because we just spent a bomb as our 4th action. Kill shot's not available because it's the opener on a boss. We're not below 60 focus because we've only spent 30 here on Mongoose Bite. And Coordinated Assault is available. So we're hitting Coordinated Assault, jump back up to Kill Shot. And that's kind of like the process that you go through. What should I hit next? So if you're going back and analyzing your play and like, okay, did I hit the max priority spell here? Yes or no? Move on and go from there. So this is in order. This is a priority list. And for AoE, it's the same thing. Both of these things are available. The priority list is a bit different. There are things that have higher value in AoE, things like Explosive Shot and Butchery, which are Explosive Shot being quite low cooldown here, or low priority here, and Butchery non-existent at all in single target, just appear as about midway down, relatively high priority in AoE. So looking at this is, obviously this is where you're referencing to figure out what you're doing, if you have every button available, and work your way down through that. And then the opener, again, this is in order. You will do this in order. Explosive Shot and a kill command, Death Shock, and then hit your cooldowns. And now you've activated both cooldowns, you've dumped bombs efficiently, and now you can go back up to this. So at first glance, this is like, all right, I just have to have a 14-step checklist in my head at all times, and every 1.5 seconds I have to reference this and pick the top thing. You may be able to do that. I don't. I have like I'm doing this, right? Like I'm following the priority list, but I have like smaller rules, so things are broken down in my head more simply, I guess. Almost like a mnemonic device you used in school, but without the abbreviations for what it is. Just like, all right, this is my little cheater code way of looking through this. So I'm going to pull up my notes here that I put together and kind of tried to write in a way, and we'll talk about every point instead of just looking at this. This is kind of what my thought process is while I'm playing the class. And as I'm walking up to packs or in the middle of a pack, it's like, man, where my resources are all jacked up. What do I hit here? This is kind of what I look to. And we have my 4 major rules at the top. And this is, you could break the class down into this and do no more thinking, and you'll do fine. Obviously, there are specifics involved here that will let you do more damage. But with any new class I pick up, and Hunter obviously not being a new class I'm picking up, but still something that's kind of ingrained in me, I just break it down into simple rules, and those being, don't cap on my bombs, don't cap on focus, don't cap butchery charges, use everything else on cooldown. Obviously, you want to use stuff on cooldown in the order shown in the priority list that we talked about earlier, but it becomes easier if like your bomb and your focus and your butchery stuff isn't like, you're just like, all right, I got to use these things, and then we'll worry about this other extra stuff. Kind of splits it up and takes a little bit of the brain lag, or makes your brain globals easier to process to do this correctly. So with that, we can break don't capping bombs has their own micro rules where it's like, okay, I have to hit a bomb here. Should I be thinking about something when I hit this? Or can I delay it by a global or two to make it better? Obviously, being the first rule is not to cap at 2. Second rule is, and maybe this rule should be above don't cap at 2, 4-piece bonus should be applied at all times. So the 4-piece being, when you kill command, it puts a debuff on the target, as we see right here, or down here. Debuff on the target, that little claw or little paw, I guess. That causes that target to take 40% bonus damage from Wildfire Bomb. Very important, huge damage bonus in single target, and it's also worth doing on AoE as well. The global is worth it in almost all AoE situations. And my napkin math was a little bit rough on the one specific situation I'll talk about where you can ignore it. So you do what you want there. It's going to be really close either way as to what's more overall damage, but I'll tell you what I've been doing. So that's we don't want to cast any bombs without the 4-piece active, because you're just missing. That's just free damage you're missing out. So you ignore other things like, you see how I put this above don't capping focus. That means kill commanding here to make sure you have 4-piece is in spite of our focus. So we may cap focus to do this because it is just that valuable. And that's just this season with this 4-piece. From then, we have our 3 different color bombs, because we were playing Wildfire Infusion at all times for every situation. I cannot remember the last time this talent wasn't taken as Survival Hunter. I don't even know when it was. At this point, it should be baseline. It's like, it's crazy that the spec identity revolves around this. It's nuts that you could imagine not taking this. But I guess there were some raid situations in BFA, now I'm thinking about it. Shadowlands, I don't think so, but BFA, there were some raid situations. Anyways, this empowers our bombs. We'll have 3 different bombs available: Shrapnel, Pheromone, and Volatile, otherwise known as blue, red, and green, and I'm going to call them colors from now on. I'm never going to call them by their name. So just I'll mention it once and move on. Every time you use a bomb, The next bomb you use will be a different color. So you can never get the same color twice, and it's random which the next one is. So you'll start with blue. If you've been out of combat for 20 seconds or more, it'll always default back to blue. And then you chuck a bomb, and you see, okay, my next one's red. All right, chuck a bomb. Oh, my next one's green. All right. And it's random. You could go blue into red into blue, or blue into red into green, into red into green, and so on and so forth. You will get a different one next. So being able to see what bomb you have next, and then thus play around a little bit, will increase your damage a bit. So in the case of blue bomb, you want to use this at high focus and high butchery stacks if possible. Now, you don't want to sacrifice capping butchery stacks to make this work or capping focus to make this work, but you would like to, if you can, situationally use it at high focus and butchery stacks. Because what the blue bomb does is it makes it so your raptor strikes and butchery cast used against mobs that have the blue bomb debuff on them apply an additional bleed that stacks up to 3 times. So you always want to get up to 3 stacks on this. You put yourself in a situation where you don't have any other conflicting globals to cast after your blue bomb so that you can do this. The next being red bomb, you want to use at low focus because what this does is causes your kill command to always reset while the red bomb debuff is on the target. So you kind of reset your focus back up to a high level after you dump. Red bomb gives you a free reset basically. So that's kind of an ebb and flow of how red and blue are used together. Blue is used and then dump focus, red is used and then rebuild focus. And you tend to streak into each other where you manage your focus and you have like relatively solid levels of focus because of this. As for green bomb, current state of the tuning on this bomb is it just happens. There's no real playing around at all with green bomb. You chuck it, it does damage, great. The extra bonus damage, volatile reaction in the past, if you played Survival Hunter, maybe in Shadowlands, early Shadowlands in particular, you played around green bomb quite a bit in Mythic Plus, where you actually spent a lot of Serpent Sting globals to empower your green when you had a green coming up next. Not the case anymore. This is mostly a passive small damage increase and also passive application of Serpent Sting to targets in AoE. So we don't hit Serpent Sting very often at all, if at all. Single target we don't hit at all. AoE, it is very rare, mostly because of the way green bomb works. Worth mentioning that this bomb is smart, sort of. It'll apply to your target, right? So whatever you cast the bomb on, it'll apply Serpent Sting to, and then 2 other targets. And if there are 2 targets available that do not have the Serpent Sting debuff on them, it will always choose those targets, but it will not prioritize low duration Serpent Sting. So for example, if you're fighting 5 mobs, 2 of them have 5 seconds left on Serpent Sting, and 3 of them have 10 seconds left. It won't prioritize refreshing the lower duration, the 5-second remaining Serpent Stings. It'll only prioritize mobs that don't have the debuff at all. It's not really going to affect how you play, but it's cool to know, I guess, when somebody asks you, like, hey, do you know if this works like this? Like, now you can tell them how it works, and you'll be right. So that's really what you're thinking about with bombs. Other than that, there's nothing extra. I mean, this is kind of a lot to be thinking about. I don't know why I'm saying nothing extra. This is kind of a lot of pieces to be thinking about. So in not capping at 2 bombs, you also want to be thinking about these things where you can. Now, next being don't cap focus. We'll talk about our Mongoose Bite, Raptor Strike, and Butchery usage because that's how we're spending our focus. Those 3 spells are how we primarily spend our focus. We have Explosive Shot and Serpent Sting as well, but those are like so minor, and Kill Shot. They're so minor and such low focus costs that they usually don't impact this much at all. It's mostly your Mongoose Bite, Raptor Strike, and Butchery, which are all 30 focus each. When you cast them, you want to think about what your focus levels are when you're doing this. So in the case of Mongoose Bite, we have the extra additional effect of Mongoose Bite being Mongoose Fury, in that you stack a buff on Mongoose Bite every time you use it that makes your next one do more damage. This lasts 14 seconds and stacks up to 5 times. So with that, you want to make sure you have focus to spend on a few Mongoose Bites when you start a window. So when you don't have a buff at all, you're about to enter a Mongoose Fury window, you want to not be at low focus so that you can guarantee you get to a decent stack level. And with that, the rule is 60 focus. So just do other stuff before you cast Mongoose Bite if you're at 60 focus. And sometimes this means on single target, sometimes this means you don't hit anything. You just you wait for a little bit. It'll happen rarely, and if you manage your kill commands as properly, it'll happen almost never. But this is a good indicator if you're having trouble with the spec and you're trying to figure out like, why am I like focus starved? It probably means you're entering Mongoose Fury windows early, or you're not casting Kill Command enough. Kill Command is pretty high on the priority list. You want to be, if you have focus of it, or if you have like space in your focus to not overcast cap, Kill Command is pretty high. With that, with the Mongoose Fury windows as well, when you get down to that last 2 seconds, 1 second, and Mongoose Fury is about to run out, you want to make sure that last global is always a Mongoose Bite. You're going to be at 5 stacks most of the time there. It's a very high value button, and if you wait a second to do it, it becomes a really low value. It's like half the damage, right? You're losing, what, 175% damage on it, on your button if you wait an extra second. So you want to spend that last global in there. With Raptor Strike, who cares? It does. You don't think about anything. It's just, if you have focus and you need to spend it so you don't cap, you spend it on Raptor Strike. That's it. And that's in most of the Mythic Plus builds. I recommend taking Raptor Strike. So there's not going to be a lot of Mongoose Bite thinking about, I guess, in Mythic Plus. In Raid, obviously you will. Small caveat about latent sniping, which if you're taking Poison Injection or LPI, I'm never going to stop calling this LPI from past expansions, but Poison Injection, this obviously makes your Serpent Stings apply an additional debuff to the mobs that when you Raptor Strike or Mongoose Bite them, it pops for extra damage. So with that, if you're playing this talent, it is a small DPS gain to be kind of tabbing through when it comes to hit your Raptor Strikes or your Mongoose Bites to get that bonus damage from latent poison on other targets than your primary target. Now, if you only care about your priority target, like a good example of this is like a pull in Brackenhide Hollow at the beginning with the War Scourges, where most of your damage you want to put into the War Scourges. They have the most health. They buff all their allies. You want to kill them as much as you can. You don't tend to worry about latent sniping because you want all your damage to go into that primary target. But something to think about. You'll see a little bit of damage boost if you do that. Then we have Butchery, which is our primary dump. Whenever we're fighting 2 or more targets, Butchery becomes better than Raptor Strike. It is more overall damage at 2+ targets, and it comes very close on primary target damage if you play it correctly during your blue bomb windows. So what I mean by that is Butchery is a finite resource as opposed to Raptor Strike, which is you just have to have focus for it. Butchery has a cooldown, it has charges. You can't just cast Butchery whenever you want. So with that, it becomes, you don't want to cap. That's one of our rules at the top. We don't want to cap Butchery charges. But if you can delay some without capping at 3 so that you have multiple Butchery charges going into a blue bomb, so you can apply 3 stacks of the blue bomb debuff, you will see a damage gain. And that is where you're on 2 targets, your priority target. So for example, second boss freehold, right? Eudora and Captain Raoul. You ideally want to put most of your damage into Eudora because once she's dead, the fight is 1, a lot easier, and 2, you can kind of start pulling trash in to fight on top of Raoul, which is a huge time save in freehold. But you can't really do it while Eudora's alive, or it's very annoying to do it while Eudora is alive, put it that way, and sometimes very dangerous. So in that, you want to do as much damage to Eudora as you can without losing damage to Raoul and vice versa. So in this situation, it's important that you play your blue bombs well so you don't lose single target damage. It comes very, very close to breaking even, hitting a Butchery on 2 targets to your primary target damage. Overall damage, always more. It's always worth hitting if you're just worried about overall total damage. So that's where, again, that comes back to our bombs. You think about this heavily in that. Next, let's talk about some of our cooldowns, because these are our 3 rules. And once we're done thinking about these 3 rules, you start thinking about your cooldown usage. First, we'll talk about Fury of the Eagle, which in Mythic Plus, you'll be taking this all the time. In Raid, you will likely not have this, so you don't have to worry about this at all in Raid. It just won't be a part of your rotation. Maybe on something like Sarkareth or Assault, you could consider taking it. Maybe on Echo. I'm not a huge fan of going all the way into the Fury on Echo or Assault, but I could see it being worthwhile on Sarkareth and just fine. You'd kind of be the AoE guy that kills the adds in phase 2 and 3. So with that, if you're only fighting one guy, one target. Fury of the Eagle is only cast when you have nothing, quite literally nothing else that you could press. And as soon as you do have something else to press, you cancel it. There's also a macro used with Fury of the Eagle that cancel auras Bloodseeker. There's a bug. I talked about this in the talents, but this you'll find in the Icy Veins guide or the Wowhead guide, whichever you prefer. You can go take a look at the details on this. But Bloodseeker basically interacts with Fury of the Eagle in a very annoying way. So you cancel this buff before you cast Fury of the Eagle. And that's that you just use a macro that every time you cast Fury of the Eagle, it cancels your Bloodseeker buff beforehand. Just worth mentioning here. On AoE, this is an extremely high priority button. It's besides your bombs and butchery stacks, this is your highest priority ability, basically. So when you pull up to a pull, you want to dump your bombs in a butchery's charge, either by hitting bomb, bomb, butchery, or bomb, butchery, bomb. I like to do bomb, butchery, bomb. I think Sims will show you to do bomb, bomb, butchery. I am simply being defiant and doing what I think feels cooler. So you want to spend both your bombs and one butchery charge and then just blast into a Fury of the Eagle. With a caveat that we'll talk about when we talk about Coordinated Assault. But generally on AoE, this is just, you got to spend this cooldown. It does a ton of damage. It resets your bombs, which lets you do even more damage, and then has CDR attached to kill command resets. So like you want to put it on cooldown so that you get value out of the kill command reset part where this comes back off cooldown faster. Next being Chakram, which is pretty much just Chakram is, you're going to take this in every build, single target or AoE. It's pretty much just slammer on cooldown. The damage it does, the focus generation is all valuable. And the damage buff, we're a pretty consistent damage class in that we don't have that much extreme burst, right? Like we kind of do pack to pack, we do relatively similar damage. CA is a little bit of a boost, obviously, but it's not like a Moonkin popping Incarn. You know what I mean? It's not like this huge 3-minute thing. So generally it's close. So with that, Chakram is going to be desynced from things a lot. The 45-second cooldown is a bit awkward with 2-minute cooldowns. Fury of the Eagle, that's going to be closer to 35-30. Explosive Shot, that's 30 seconds. It's going to be a little bit awkward. So for the most part, you hit this on cooldown because you don't want to lose uses. I hold it up to 5 seconds if it means I'm going to get an Explosive Shot in it or a Fury of the Eagle in it. On AoE only, single target, you're not holding this for either of those buttons. You're ripping it on cooldown. I will hold about 5 seconds or so just for Coordinated Assault on single target. And ideally you want to cast it at low focus because there is a focus generation portion of this. Worth mentioning now, we're going to talk about Coordinated Assault, but in the same vein as Chakram, say you have Coordinated Assault is up. It just came up. You could hit the button right now. But Chakram is available in 20 seconds. In that situation, I like to hold my Coordinated Assault for about 10 seconds so that the second half, because Chakram's a 10-second debuff, Coordinated Assault's a 20-second buff, so the second half I can get full value of my Chakram inside my Coordinated Assault window. So I like to hold for up to 10 seconds. Anything more than 10 seconds is just way too much. You're gonna miss out on uses in that regard. So that's really the only time we're holding here. Explosive Shot in the same vein. I don't like to hold Explosive Shot very much in AoE, but in single target, if you know AoE is coming up, you can hold Explosive Shot for quite a bit. It is more single target damage than Raptor Strike, for sure. It is only cast outside Mongoose Fury windows if you have Mongoose Bite talented. But if you start holding it a little bit, like say it's off cooldown and you know AoE is coming in like 10, 15 seconds, something like that, you start holding, all of a sudden now it's going to line up with Chakram again, right? Because they're desynced. Now you're not only going to get bonus damage because it's a really good AoE button, but it's now going to line up with Chakram. So I'm a little bit more lenient about holding my Explosive Shots in that regard. But generally, just send on cooldown. Like if you're in an AoE situation and there's more than one mob, just send that puppy. It's more so in single target. You're thinking about, okay, if I hold this, can I get more value out of cleaving down some ads with it or something like that? So if you're playing a no CD build, which we've talked about quite a bit in the talent videos, these are perfectly viable. In Mythic Plus, at least, I don't think I would recommend this in Raid at all. But in Mythic Plus, I do like the no CA. It is generally close. I think CA is a little bit better, but it is generally close. And if you just don't want to think about stuff, go for it. Like it's a lot easier to play. I think less fun though. But with that, you're done. Like that's pretty much it. There's a few minor things we'll mention after CA, but that's it. You're ready to go slam big damn in Mythic Plus. Just cast your Fury of the Eagle as often as you can. Don't cap bombs. Don't cap focus. Don't cap your Butchery charges, and you're good. But if you're playing CA, there's a few more things to think about. One of them coincides with Fury of the Eagle that I actually don't have written here, but I do want to talk about. So as we look at those priority lists that were listed on Icy Veins and general priority lists for playing the class, Fury of the Eagle ranks above Coordinated Assault, right? You want to spend your Fury of the Eagle before you go into your next cooldown. However, sometimes Mythic Plus doesn't work out in a way where that's the best choice. Sometimes packs are just going to die in 15 seconds, right? Like, say you're going into a Tyrannical plus 17 Freehold, and the first pull of Freehold's 9 mobs. It's a big AoE pull, but it's going to die fast. Everybody has their cooldowns. Some people have pre-cooldowns coming in. It's Tyrannical. The key's not very high. In that situation, I slam straight into CA, and I don't worry about getting my Fury of the Eagle on cooldown, so that I can get a full value of my CA, put my long 2-minuter on cooldown, and then next pull I'll still have Fury of the Eagle as like my halvesy cooldown to be able to do a lot of damage on the next pull. So that comes into kind of understanding this. A lot of Mythic Plus is understanding what's the strength of your group, what the route is, how much damage other classes do, if you're going to need damage for a pull after this. So generally speaking, I like to send cooldowns on cooldown and not really think too much about it. But in lower keys where stuff is going to die relatively quickly, you can make the consideration to just skip Fury of the Eagle and cast Coordinated Assault on a pack if you think you're just barely going to get full value out of the Coordinated Assault, the 20-second Coordinated Assault window on said pack. And then use Fury later on. Or at the end of the pack if you need to execute something like that. Also worth thinking about for like Raging Week, that having Fury of the Eagle at low HP to get rid of raging mobs, it can be kind of annoying, mostly in dungeons like Uldaman. Having Fury of the Eagle as like a pseudo execute at low health is pretty good. So if you have to shift up where you use this, sometimes it's worth thinking about. But generally, you'll just be sending this on cooldown before CA. So with that, some little points of prep before we go into Coordinated Assault, things you want to put on cooldown or like have stuff available on cooldown going in. You want to spend at least 1 bomb prior on single target, so that it's recharging while you're doing some other things, right? Because your next couple globals are going to be a kill shot, maybe a kill command to refresh if it's not on the opener, and then back into bombs. And you don't want to be sitting on 2 bombs, especially now that you have this. Now you have a shorter cooldown era bombs. It's going to be like a 5-ish second, 5 to 7 second cooldown, depending on your haste. You don't want to be sitting every second you sit at 2 stacks there is like way more punishing than outside of CA. So spend at least 1 bomb. On AoE you can spend 2 because you have access to Butchery, which is going to rip your stacks back up to max immediately almost on AoE. So you want to make sure you're at low bomb counts going into CA. If you're taking Bombardier, we'll mention this now. So a single target raid build will be something like this. This is what I play on pretty much every boss in the raid. You'll take Bombardier for a slight single target increase. You want to spend both of your bombs on single target in that case, because you're going to reset them. Like when you hit Coordinated Assault, you're going to gain 2 charges instantly. So caveat there is these 3 situations are all a little bit different, but that's how many bombs you want to spend. And you want to make sure your first global is always kill shot. Kill shot is your highest value button during Coordinated Assault, and you want to be pushing it as close to on cooldown as possible. You don't want to be wasting globals that delay kill shots and then you miss a kill shot inside your Coordinated Assault. So with that, first global always has to be a kill shot. So you can wait a couple seconds before hitting CA on cooldown to make sure that this happens. Then inside CA, you're kind of still following the same priority list, right? It's not much different. It's just faster. And kill shot moves above everything, right? So kill shot just comes up above don't cap bombs, don't cap focus during CA. Otherwise, everything is handled the same. You still want to think about your 2-piece, or your 4-piece rather. You still want to be making sure you use Butchery charges effectively. Don't cap your focus if you can. And get all that stuff out during CA. With Bombardier also, at the end of, and this will happen kind of naturally, at the end of CA, you want to dump bombs as well, because you're going to get a refresh again, just like you did at the start. So one last thing we'll talk about with CA here is during PI and Lust, or PI or Lust, I should say. If you have PI or Lust and you're in Coordinated Assault, I drop the priority of 4-piece quite a bit. If I have a free global that just happens to exist because I'm like waiting for kill shot and I don't want to spend a Butchery that's going to overcap my bombs and be basically worthless, I will throw a kill command in to refresh. But generally, if you have this much haste, you just like can't. It's like very, very hard to even find a global that isn't going to cause you to either cap bombs, cap Butchery charges, or miss a kill command. So in that situation, I kind of move on from the 4-piece. But again, this is something you can try both ways. I don't have any real evidence that it's better. It's just what I do. So do with that information what you will, I guess. Finally, 3 small points worth thinking about. And all this coinciding back to the guide. Again, like I said, I think working off that priority list is the best way to learn this spec. But if these notes and little like things I think about in addition help you out, that's kind of the goal of this video, right? So Serpent Sting. If you have Hydra's Bite, which I play Hydra's Bite, there's a big part of the survival community that thinks I'm a moron for playing Hydra's Bite, but I have simply decided it's better. I'm being stubborn about it. I still do think it is better in most situations. You can maybe come up with some specific places that the priority damage from poison injection is better, but I'm sticking to my guns. With that, there are some very niche situations where you will cast Serpent Sting rotationally in that it is better than Raptor Strike. And those are if you are in AoE only, single target, you're not hitting this unless you literally cannot hit the boss. Like if you're off the boss 40 yards away for a mechanic or something and you have nothing else that you can hit, you can cast a Serpent Sting. Nobody's going to yell at you for that. That's fine. It's a very efficient focus global in the sense that it effectively costs 2.5 focus with how much you regen in the global that you spend it. Like by the time you go to spend focus again, you'll have only spent 2.5. So it's not going to screw up your rotation at all if you're at range and can't hit anything else and you just drop a Serpent Sting. But rotationally, if you're in the pack and actually fighting mobs, if you are fighting multiple targets, has to be more than one, and you're about to hit a Raptor Strike, right? You're at the Raptor Strike point of the priority list. There's nothing else for you to do right now. You're hitting a Raptor Strike, but there are mobs in the pack that do not have Serpent Sting applied to them. Serpent Sting is a better global than Raptor Strike. Also assumes that you do not care about priority damage because this is going to do more AoE total damage, but damage to the primary mob or the big mob or whatever you're attacking specifically will be less. The Raptor Strike will do more damage to that mob. So this is like a very small min-max, and it also is only if you're playing Hydra's Bite, which I think a lot of you are not. I actually don't know what the general public feels about Hydra's Bite versus poison injection, just because the decision is it's such a minor decision, like it doesn't really have that big an impact either way. So if all those things are true and you're about to hit a Raptor Strike, you can plug in a Serpent Sting instead for that global, and it'll do more overall damage. Flanking Strike is something that you will take in the raid quite likely most of the time. This simply replaces a kill command if you have enough focus to spend it. It's usually if you're below 60 focus, because again, in the global, you're going to regen 1. This is going to generate 30. If you're below 60 focus and you have like an extra kill command to hit, and by an extra kill command to hit, I mean this kill command is not a kill command that's applying the 4-piece bonus, and you're not going to end up wasting a kill command at max focus to do that because you hit the flanking strike. That's when you hit flanking. So that happens pretty often. It sounds like a lot of rules, but you kind of this generates more focus than kill command, so it's better if you can get away with using it and keep your 4-piece applied. And then Harpoon is an off global damage button. This does damage. It generates focus. It is worth hitting if you can cast it without losing any other globals. So this can be done by strafing away from mobs, Something you've seen, I don't know if anybody's played Warrior in the past. Warriors do a lot of charge weaving, which is you hit a button, you walk away from the mob just slightly out of range so that you can harpoon back in. You can also use disengage to do this if you don't need it for anything else upcoming. Again, you also don't want to use this if you're going to need this for mobility. So varies fight to fight, varies pack to pack, varies dungeon to dungeon. Harpoon has a lot of uses in the sense of extremely good mobility. It's also a root, which has some uses in some places that either help your tank or things like Underrot on the Blood Swarmers. Rooting them in place when they're fixated on somebody is pretty powerful. In Mythic Plus, you're going to have way more casts of this, though, because you're going to get the reset from turns of engagement. So do with that what you will. It is a slight damage uppy to do this, but it's pretty annoying, and I don't do it at all. So do with that information what you will, I guess. I tend to not do this, but it is technically a damage upgrade. It's probably more used in raid, where you can get away with this quite a bit. But just make sure there's a lot of knockbacks in this raid where Harpoon is very useful at getting back to the boss. So make sure that you're not going to kind of screw yourself and then not have this available when you want it to get back on the boss after getting knocked back or something like that. So that about covers it. Those are kind of, this is what I think about while I'm playing the class and how I'm able to do more damage. I think I probably get more out of this class than most people that are playing it right now. A lot of that comes to comfort. I've been playing it for a long time. But I think I credit a lot of that also to being able to break things down into different pieces. So I'm not exactly sure how helpful this is going to be. This might be the worst YouTube video you've ever watched and the worst guide content you've ever watched, because I know my brain is disorganized in a way that I'm not sure it works in a way that's conducive with sharing it with others. So if that's the case, just tell me to shut up and go read the guides that are written by people that are better at this, that have been practicing and honing this craft for 10 years now. Zortharian's guide on Icy Veins is awesome. The guide written by Thigh Mind and I think Dualby is the other guy's name on Wowhead are also awesome. I will link those both again in the description. I have both of them in here. I'll have a direct link to this rotation page as well, because I think that is a better starting point than talking to me about survival, to be honest. I think they're just better at it or better at making this kind of content, and being able to put their thoughts into these ordered words is very clean. This is my first thing, right? When I go away from the game and I come back, I'm like, all right, let me pull up the Icy Veins guide and see what's going on. And then I kind of go fool around and play with it myself and make my own rules for it in this sense. So shout out to those guys for what they've done for the Hunter community forever. And yeah, let me know in the comments. Like maybe this is what people want. I don't I don't know. It doesn't feel like it, but everybody's asked me for stuff, so I wanted to at least get something out here for you. I think coming up next, the next thing we're going to do is talk about trinkets and gearing. So trinkets, embellishments, gearing. I'm going to make a separate video for that, because I think trinkets are very difficult to, or sometimes, not always, difficult to judge how good they are in Mythic Plus, because it's not so much as just running an AoE sim and seeing what does the most damage, right? Because you have downtime in Mythic Plus. Sometimes you want to put power in different places. You want to have stronger cooldowns, or you want to have more consistent damage, or you want to have single target damage. Like, there's all these different choices to be made with trinkets. This tier, I think the decisions are kind of easy, but we'll talk about that probably maybe not tomorrow, but the next day I'll get a video up talking about gearing, embellishments, and trinkets for Survival Hunter, and hopefully that helps you guys out with kind of building your characters. So, yep, leave me a like if you like, subscribe to the channel if you like. Tell me to fuck off if you like. Any one of those three, super helpful to me, honestly. Hope you guys have a great day, and enjoy the video. Peace.